He's back.
With more than 2 million followers online,
Joe Pags.
Joe Pags, known as one of the most influential conservative radio talk show hosts in the country.
And I've interviewed Trump 14 times, so I mean...
Pags opens up to me about everything from President Trump to the terrifying night his home was targeted.
And Sarah, when I got out there were 7 armed police officers with their long guns out, ready to kill somebody.
Pags reveals why today, more than ever, he is unshaken and unafraid.
Come on.
I have someone with me here that needs no introduction. Joe Pags here with me
Sarah,
today.
how you doing?
Good.
Was that in the shot? I didn't mean that. I'm sorry about that. Thanks for having me. What a nice little set here. This is awesome.
Thank you. The crew did an amazing job.
They did.
John, Gabby have been working hard to make this happen. Everybody knows the Joe Pags name.
I think so.
Right?
Well, here anyway.
Who's the most interesting person you've ever interviewed? I mean, my gosh, you know so many people.
It's got to be Trump because I wasn't sure how he was going to treat me. They invited me to the White House in 2017. One of 5 shows in the entire nation got invited for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that he was pushing. And when he approached, I wasn't sure how to take him. I'm 6'1". He's a little taller than I am, so he's a big guy. I shook his hand. You might have a picture of me shaking his hand.
Yep, right there.
I shook his hand, and I think he's grabbing my muscle here, Sarah. I think he's saying, wow, this guy works out. But probably not.
I was about to ask, is that a real story?
Because... No, it's not. No, he's just patting me on the arm. And he said, you're friends with my boys, right? I said, yes. I know Eric and I know Don Jr. Now, my daughter Sam was there. This is important to know about Donald Trump because the cameras weren't rolling and nobody was recording. And he sat down. And we were about to start the conversation. And I said, oh, this is my daughter, Sam. She is my executive producer. He popped back up, walked over, gave her half a hug, shook her hand. How are you, Sam? What can I do for you? And he didn't have to. And the guy was really busy. He had all these people waiting to talk to him. And there is no video of him doing that. He didn't do it for that. So I find him to be a really interesting guy because he doesn't come off as very nice to those who don't like him. And for those who never met him, they don't know that he's a regular guy. He's a person. And I found that to be very interesting. I think the second most interesting person, although I've interviewed a lot of people. I'm very, very privileged that I've interviewed a lot of people. Rudy Giuliani is very, very interesting to me because, A, he acts like he's a family member. I found that to be very interesting. But he's the guy that literally learned how to use the RICO statutes to take down the mob bosses and all the mob families in New York. And it's rarely even talked about. So I found that conversation to be unbelievable. I literally brought him together with a former capo regime of the Colombo crime family, Michael Franzese. They hadn't seen each other in 47 years. Rudy tried to send him to prison for 100 years. It didn't work. He got acquitted. I had them on my show together for the first time. Now they're great friends.
How long ago was that?
4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. I'm very privileged to do what I do. Like you are. We get to meet very interesting people.
Who else do you have on your phone?
Dan Bongino, the deputy director, so he's a friend as well.
President Trump, because you've interviewed him plenty of times.
I don't have President Trump. I've got Eric, I've got Don Jr., I've got Laura Trump, I've got all the Trumps except President Trump.
Can we get him on the phone now? Can you call someone and put him on speaker?
Anybody named Trump except for Donald J. in the White House. And there are people who aren't famous that I've interviewed that I went, wow. We get to interview very, very interesting people. I've interviewed people from what would be Palestine and from Israel and made sure, this is when I was on television in the 1990s. Mm-hmm. And I said, why wasn't that deal good enough? And I now have a better understanding of why the Palestinians don't like it. Why was that deal offered? I now understand why the Israelis say they offered it. I get to interview people from around the globe. And now with our technology on Zoom or whatever, I mean, it's unbelievable what we get to have access to. And what's interesting, and you're to find this as this podcast passes mine, and it will, this is going to be amazing for you, that people start saying, I need to be on Sarah Forgany's podcast. I've got 5 to 6 million listeners on the radio. 5 to 6 million. These people are lining up to be on my podcast, which is only 35 episodes in. So that's the wave of the future. People are lining up to do it. So my most interesting interview, I hope, is the next one I do. But I've interviewed some really interesting people.
Are you inviting me to your show now? Is that the formal invitation that I'm getting?
Wow, just go ahead and invite yourself right in, Forgany. Absolutely.
Well, you said your most interesting interview will be the next one. So, naturally, me being very humble.
You should be the next one, duh. How silly.
You tried to get me on years back for,
I think no.
for Haiti and Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You know why?
No.
I've never told you this.
No.
I came up with excuses. I was nervous.
About what? I'm just going old Joe. What are you talking about?
I like being in the interviewer. Right. I don't like to be on the other end of it.
How do you think I feel?
I don't know.
I've almost interviewed you half of this interview. You know that, right?
No. It's something I've never shared before, and I've never told you, but here we are.
I just
we're
figured
being
you were
honest and open.
I
was
thought that you were
nervous.
practicing because, Sarah, the stories that you did with Haiti, and I think people should go and find these stories. If they're in the archives, they should find them. What you did with that woman who sang into the beautiful songs, that should be seen. And you should have come on and done it. It's interesting that you say that because when I got first invited to be on Headline News in 2005, first time I'd done national television like that, it was because of Hurricane Katrina. And I was the morning guy at a San Antonio station where all the refugees from New Orleans were coming to San Antonio. I was a little nervous too, but you know what? You get in there, you lock in, and you do what you do. You just say exactly what it is that you know. And from there, it became Fox, and I was at ESPN and ESPN2, and then I was on ABC. And
do you ever get nervous still, or is that gone? Ever?
I never get nervous.
No matter who you interview.
I don't have the nervous gene.
Wow.
Sarah, I don't have the nervous gene.
How?
I walk
is there
out.
anything, what do you drink before you get on the show?
I drink Zevia all day. It's a diet soda that's sweetened with stevia root or stevia leaf. No, I don't have that gene. I'll give you an example. The Righteous Brothers were in town recently.
Yeah.
I'm great friends with the Righteous Brothers. I don't know how I did that, but Bill Medley, who's now 84, is still singing with the Righteous Brothers. And I went backstage and hung out with them. And I was dead. I walked up, Sarah, and I started singing to Bill Medley.
Wow.
In the middle of the hall. And he jumped right in. We sang a song right there.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I don't have that gene. I feel bad for those who do have that. And I think you're being modest. You don't really have that either. You couldn't do what you do. But I think you were afraid of what I'm going to ask you to come on my show because I just don't care.
No, I'm not afraid of what you're going to ask me. Because I'll tell you exactly what I think.
I know that
I may
now,
not tell
yes.
everyone else.
Right, exactly. Right.
But I will tell you.
No, I found that interesting.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I've gotten more comfortable. But
well, can we be honest? You're more humble about what you do than I am.
Oh,
and I'm being honest about that. I'm not humble about it. I know what I do is pretty good. I know that people like what I do, and I'll stand behind it. You stand behind what you do as well, but I think you're humble about it. You don't want to be the focus. Well, that Haiti story doesn't get told if you don't go and tell it. That's the truth.
I do what I do because I love telling stories.
Right.
My favorite interviews are the everyday people. Everybody has a story, and when you sit there and you listen to what they have to say, I always walk away inspired. And we have that inquisitive nature, but your voice is so unique. The other day during the press conference, President Trump was here in Kerrville, and we didn't see you. But the minute you opened your mouth, it's like I knew it was you. And then my husband later was like, "Hey, I heard Joe asking the president. President took his question today." I mean, it's a very distinct voice. Were you always like that?
Well, no, I got it. Well, I wasn't born like this. That'd be scary. Mom.
Just a little bit.
No, that wouldn't have worked. I was 13. I woke up one day. I didn't do the whole Peter Brady. You're probably too young to remember the Peter Brady, My Voice is Changing episode.
No, of course. Brady Bunch, I love him.
Right, but I mean, Peter Brady was like, he's talking like that for a whole episode.
Puberty years.
Right. His voice was changing. That didn't happen to me. I woke up one day and I said, "Mom, what's for breakfast?" And she said, "Knock it off." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Why are you doing that with your voice?" I said, "I'm not doing anything."
No.
And I was 13. There it was. Have a nice day.
So you were just like one
Woke
voice
up
one
day,
day,
here it
and then
was.
the next day your parents didn't even recognize your voice?
He probably smokes 4 packs a day. No, none of that. This just happened. I got lucky. I mean, in music, I'm a bass. And basses are rare, so I think the voice does at least command some attention. That's probably why you recognized me right away in Kerrville. Right. There's a backstory in that if you want to hear it.
Sure,
the whole Kerrville thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning to go. Now, we contacted the White House a few days earlier. We got word that he was going to be in Kerrville. I said, "Hey, if you want, our flagship KTSA is in San Antonio, covers Kerrville. We've got 16 stations just in Texas and 170 around the country. If you want me to go and cover this, I will, if I can get a minute with the president." They were like, no, it's already set. Don't worry about it. Again, I go to bed very late, about 5 o'clock in the morning. 7:55, my phone's blown up from the White House. On that day, on that Friday, "You got to go to Kerrville." I'm not. What are you talking about? I literally said I'm not going to Kerrville, and I hung up. And then my daughter Sam, who's my executive producer that you know, got a hold of my daughter Gia, said, "Go wake Dad up. We have to go to Kerrville." So she came in again. She said, "Dad, you got to go to Kerrville." "I'm not going to Kerrville." We got up, got ready, jumped in the car, drove the hour. They didn't have us on any lists. They first said you're going to be part of the presidential motorcade. I went, "Really?" Then I wasn't. Go to the airport. Don't go to the airport.
Who was it that called you from the White House?
Somebody on the White House advanced staff said, "Why don't we have him there? He's the local guy." And I've interviewed Trump 14 times, so I mean, they know me.
He knows you, yeah.
Right. So we ended up going, and long story short, he finally comes in. You've got every U.S. representative from Texas who's a Republican there. You've got both senators, both Cornyn and Cruz are both there. You've got the lieutenant governors there, the governors there. All their wives are there. The president walks in, and he starts taking questions. Now, I'm probably from where we're sitting 50 feet away from where they are, and there's a big U table where all these dignitaries are sitting, and he and Melania,
I remember that, yeah.
he and the First Lady are sitting right in the back of it. I'll take a couple of questions. First question is, blah, blah, who's to blame? This is horrible. How do you fix it? You're to blame. Everybody screwed up. And then I raise my hand, and I'm wearing a blue shirt. And he can't tell who I am. And again, I've interviewed him a lot of times, including in the White House. He says, guy in the blue shirt. I'm like, okay.
That's
and
funny.
Chip Roy is sitting in our line of sight, who's a U.S. representative from this area.
And did somebody go, hey, that's Joe Pags?
Well, no, Chip Roy starts talking. So Trump looks at me and says, guy in the blue, I'm wearing blue. Chip's not wearing blue. Maybe he's colorblind. Chip's a friend. And he just starts talking. And Trump's like, hey, oh, Chip. And I said, no, it's okay, Mr. President. He's my representative. Let him finish. And then when he got done, I got to ask the question, what do you do next time? You're a developer. How do you fix this? And you heard it. And I got a text from you and Will Cate on Fox and Fox News in New York and CNN. And were you the guy? And how did that work out? It just so happened that he decided to pick me. Now, was it set up by them? If we can get Pags there, he'll pick him? I don't think so. I just happened to be in a place where he could see me. And I'm kind of obnoxious and big, so I'm like.
You're a little hard to miss. Maybe it's those muscles. I don't know if anybody noticed them.
No, come on, it's all fake.
You work out all the time. So.
I work out a lot, yes. But I thought it was an important question. I felt very lucky that I was involved in that. I was glad that you heard it, and other people here at Ken's heard it. And I thought that question probably they started having meetings, and Nim Kidd was in there with the governor, and how do we fix this for Kerrville and never have it happen again? But I felt very privileged because I've got those relationships that even though he couldn't see who I was because I was too far away, the fact that he called on me and I asked the question, I think he appreciated that.
But let's be real, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the White House called you that morning,
Yes.
or whoever, right? And,
Yes.
and they wanted you there.
They did.
So it was pretty clear that he was going to end up taking your question, I guess, at that point, right? I mean, they wanted you there for a reason. It's known that you're conservative.
Yes, those reasons,
And
yes.
so,
Did I know he was going to ask me a question? I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Did they know he was going to ask me a question? Maybe. Did somebody tell him in his ear, hey, get the guy in the blue shirt? Maybe. I think there's a good chance of that. He only took 3 questions.
I want to talk about your days when you were a little younger. We have some great pictures of you, and I was like, "Wow, that's a different look for Joe."
Okay, well, what are we doing?
We're gonna see some of those pictures.
There you go.
All right. So was this your start in radio?
It wasn't. No. I was a television news anchor in Albany, and WABC is in New York City. So I was in Albany, and I called the program director at WABC. I've always been this guy. I get the feeling that you're this person too. I called the boss. And I said, hey, I'm the news anchor at the CBS in Albany. I'd like to be on talk radio. He said, anchors can't be talk show hosts. I said, well, give me a shot. I'll show you. Be here Saturday morning at 7 in New York, in Manhattan, and do WABC, do a 3-hour show. Got in a car, drove 3 hours south, jumped on the air at 2 Penn Station, where WABC was, knocked it out of the park. And that wasn't my big break necessarily, but that was what I needed. To have somebody tell me you can move from TV news where you're unbiased, you can't have a commentary, you can't have an opinion, to doing something that is opinionated because I think you're entertaining enough. I think that you can hold the audience.
So that's why you wanted to leave TV news, because you had the longing to be independent.
I think that was the foot out the door of TV news. I still had a year on my contract when I left TV news to come to WAI. And it's an interesting story how I got here. The guy who was Rush Limbaugh's boss, Gabe Hobbs, we had lunch. And I was told it's going to be 15 minutes. This guy has no time. Sarah, we sat there for 2 hours. I had this guy cracking up at the table. It was amazing. And he said, what's it going to take to get you into radio full time? And I said, well, gun to my head, same money, I would do radio. And he told the program director who was sitting with us, he said, Greg, go get the gun. So, Sarah, I was doing 3 hours in the morning in Rochester, New York, 2 hours in Detroit, Michigan. Then I went and anchored the 6 and 11 o'clock newscast at the local CBS, which told me I could do this as a job. The same guy, Gabe Hobbs, said, we've got an opportunity at the flagship 1200 WAI in San Antonio. So I gave up TV news. I had a year on my contract. I took a $30,000 a year pay cut to come to San Antonio, to a city I'd never been in before. And we've been here ever since.
Did you grow up in a conservative household? Were you always conservative?
I think my parents voted for Jimmy Carter.
So how did you steer the other way?
I think probably because I really wanted to see both sides. And I often say this on the radio, and I mean it. It's not being conceited or egotistical, although you need an ego to do what I do. I know their side better than I know my own side. Because if I don't, I can't argue with them. I can't debate them. I'm not a conservative because it's cool to be a conservative. I'm a conservative because I weighed the liberal side and I don't like it. So I've made the decision with full knowledge of both sides. Like I agreed with Barack Obama on 3 or 4 things that he did. I disagree with everything else that he did, but I'm always going to take it issue by issue and make that decision. Generally speaking, values-wise, I'm a conservative guy in my values. But if there's something that a liberal says that's smart and that I can get behind, I'll do that. So I grew up in a house where they didn't force their politics on me. I knew they were voting for Jimmy Carter, but Sarah, they voted for Jimmy Carter because he had a really pretty smile. That's why they voted for him. They, you know what I mean?
They liked the way he looked.
Right.
They're like, hey, he's handsome. He's got my vote. Yeah.
He's from Plains, Georgia. He's got a nice smile.
I feel like that's how I vote for the hottest People magazine.
Well, I think that's what it became. I think in the 1960s, because Kennedy was so good looking, people started voting in a popularity contest. But I wasn't always a guy who said, I'm going to be, dug in the ground conservative because I have to be. No, I'm conservative because I end up on that side of these issues.
Well, you're known as one of the most conservative talk show hosts in the country.
Yes.
You're one of the most popular podcasters now in the country as well.
We're doing okay.
And I think a lot of people watching too would probably want to know, like, what do I need to do to be like Joe Pags one day or not be like Joe Pags?
So which side you're on in the Joe Pags argument? Yeah.
I would only say that because, Joe and I have known each other for a long time, and we don't always agree. And we're very open and honest about that.
And it works because of that, because we don't give in.
Well, we respect each other's differences. And
Absolutely.
This is why America is great.
Yes.
But going back to your journey, you love music.
I do. I was a music major in college. I'm a musician.
Music is one of those things I feel like you're kind of born with, like it's a natural born talent. So I'm assuming you were like that as a kid?
I was. Yeah.
So how'd you go from music to TV, radio, and the whole thing?
I was going to be a recording artist. I wasn't going to be a singer. I was going to be a saxophone player, a very popular saxophone player. I was going to be better than Kenny G.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was that at the Spurs game?
This is at a Spurs game, and I suited up like this. And I think Tom James from the Spurs and Tony Morano, actually, this is his picture. Tom James from the Spurs says, "Dude, can you dress down a little bit? What are you doing?" So the next time I was wearing the rolled up sleeves and everything else. But no, I was always a musician. I play. I'm not again bragging. I just do. I play everything except for the trombone. I don't know where to put the slide. I don't feel like figuring that out. But I started on French horn, a very hard brass to play. Then I switched to woodwinds through clarinet, and I'm a saxophone player now. And now, of course, I sing as well. But
man of many talents.
I don't know about that, but I was playing. I don't know, but people out there will say, yeah, he does have talents. No, he doesn't. So people are divided on that already. But no, I started playing records. Not records. We actually had CDs back then, even in 1989, and did that for a couple of years. But I knew that I wanted to be in news radio because from 10 years old, I was interested in what was going on. I mean, I was 10 when Jimmy Carter was running for president in 1976, and I was really engaged by it. Why don't people want Ford, and why did Nixon leave, and what is Jimmy Carter doing? So I've always been an information junkie, but I was also a music guy.
I was going to say, you never gave it up. I mean, I hear you sometimes integrated into your podcast. It's like, you're giving us a breaking news and you're all serious, and then suddenly you just pull out your instrument and start singing and start playing.
It's still in me. I still have the music in me. And I think, I think is probably what makes my show unique. Because there are a lot of conservatives out there, a lot of people who have similar opinions as I do. Thankfully, I could do a parody song about a hot news item and do all the harmonies myself and play the saxophone on it and do whatever, and it works out pretty well. So I integrated in what I do, but I really did think, when I was 16, I started getting paid in Palm Beach County, Florida, to play saxophone. I was playing at the Breakers. I was playing at, these a boat, a gambling ship. I was the saxophone player with the band. We'd make like $100 an hour at 16 years old in 1980 something, which was a ton of money. So I really thought that was going to be my path. Yeah. But as the voice developed more and as people took note of the voice and as I got more opinions on things, I thought I could probably I think they're kind of the same business. It sounds weird, but I really do think it's kind of the same business. You're there to entertain. You're there to inform, you're there to educate, you're there to spend time with the people that choose to take in what you're doing. And that could be a musician, a singer, you're a great singer. It could be what we do, what you do on television, what I do on radio.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, wait till I start my own show and give you some competition. I'll start busting out in song
I'm ready.
Of my stuff. So, okay, I want your pictures to play up here as we're talking about your journey.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is your family.
Yes, my wife and my 5 daughters. Jenny's my wife. CJ is the eldest, and then Sam, and then Gabby, and then Gia, and then Mesa. 5 daughters. And I'm the only dude.
And you got to love it. You're a super girl dad, huh?
I am a super girl dad. And I do the best I can as a Supergirl. You don't always succeed, but you try your level best. And here's another picture of the eldest 3. These are our 3 natural-born children. We adopted the 2 younger ones. So this is CJ, Sam, Gabby, my wife Jenny, and me.
And so why did you decide to adopt? What inspired you to do that? That's incredible.
Jenny was always very intrigued by the plight of girls in China. The plight of girls in China back then was literally, and I don't mean to be too graphic, but they would, if you had a girl, they would literally have water off to the side to get rid of the girl because the tradition was you have to have a boy. And you had a one-child policy in China. I don't think they have it anymore. They had a one-child policy in China. So if the firstborn was a girl, you wanted to keep trying till you had a boy, and they would literally throw them in the streets, get rid of them, put them up for adoption. My daughter Gia was actually in like a basket on the side of the road in China. So she started looking into Chinese adoption, and we found this beautiful young girl, and we decided that's our daughter. I went to China. I went with my mother, with CJ, my eldest daughter, and myself. We went to China, and we were there 15 days, got sick as a dog. I don't know what the heck the bug was that I got in China. But this was, I don't know, 14, 15 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And what was that trip like? Was it a difficult process to
Very.
start? So if people are thinking about it now, I'm thinking now it's even more difficult.
Well, I think they shut it down. I don't think you can adopt from China right now. I think there's Russian adoption that was there for a while, too. You can't do that anymore. I think you can still from South America and from Central America.
How long did the process take you?
We probably were looking for her since before she was born. So we probably started the process 2.5, 3 years earlier. Wow. And Jenny did most of that. I didn't do a lot of that. I was just the guy who had to go and get her and had to bring like crisp $100 bills from the United States. You couldn't pay them in a check. You couldn't wire them. You had to get brand new money and hand it to people. You didn't even know who you're handing it to. Okay, give this person 10. Okay, here's 10,000. Give this person another 8. Okay, here's 8 for you. I had no idea. But the process was very, very strange. And when you go there, they want to show you the best light of China that you can. You don't go where the smog is. You don't go where people are suffering and in poverty. Luckily, though, we had an exchange student from China that stayed with us before that, a few years earlier than that. She met me there and took me to some of the real places in China. We actually ate real Chinese food, not the Americanized version, and stuff like that.
How long were you there for?
15 days. I literally called into the radio show while I was there. Although it's a 12 or 14-hour difference.
You were with WOAI at the time then, right? Because,
Yeah, I had to be off the air, but I would call in to whoever was filling my slot that day, and then we'd just give people an update on what it was. So basically, the listeners here in San Antonio, because I wasn't syndicated yet, the listeners here in San Antonio followed that entire journey, getting Gia, going there, bringing her home, and now she's a little American girl, loves country music and her cowboy boots. She has her first car, and she's about to be a junior in high school. So, yeah, she's just an absolutely all-American girl. Clearly, she was born to be our kid.
What about your other daughter that you adopted?
We adopted Mesa, who is the daughter of a family member that was in a position that they couldn't, raise her, and we love her to death. She's 10 now. So as we keep on thinking that we're going to get the kids out of the house, we keep on bringing other kids in that need us.
And you've been married for a long time, right? 35 years.
Yeah.
Well, the kids keep you going too. I mean,
absolutely. They keep me working as hard as I do. That's for sure.
So what's the secret? Would you tell everyone to a 35-year marriage?
I don't know. I think just mutual support. She's somebody who doesn't like the spotlight. She's somebody who she would never do what I do. I'll stand in the middle of the Spurs game and play the national anthem on my saxophone, whereas she's nervous to be even off the sideline watching it. So I think complete polar opposite. If I had somebody who wanted the spotlight like I want it, it would be tough. It would be hard. So I think that's the secret. Communication is always the secret. Raising kids the way you want to raise them and seeing, getting your joy out of what they achieve.
Yeah.
We got 2 grandkids now. We've got a granddaughter and a grandson, Bailey and Ollie.
How old are they?
I'm going to be in trouble if I don't get this right. I think they're 10 and 9, I think. Or 11 and 10.
Why did I not know that as long as I've known you?
I have no idea, because I didn't think to myself, let me tell Sarah-Forgany about my grandkids. It wasn't something we brought up. I don't know.
So a secret to tell you. How long ago did you and I meet? Like, I don't know.
I think we met in 2013, something like that.
And I don't even know how we met. It was
we
at one of the
events. We said hello at a Spurs game. 2013 or 2014. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Man.
Look at all that hair I had. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, what happened to your hair? It's all the stress.
I'm friends with you. That's what happened to my hair.
Listen, I feel the same way. I feel like I lost half my hair since then, too.
No, we've known each other for a good long time, yeah.
And I don't know how to say your last name, Joe.
Pags. What's the problem?
No, not that. Come on, give us a full one.
Pagliarulo.
Say it again?
It's 10 letters, 5 syllables in English. It's Pagliarulo.
Pagliarulo.
But in Italian, you don't pronounce the G. G-L-I in Italian is like a Y.
Because you're Italiano.
It would be Pagarulo. Yes, they have to do this with you. Pagarulo.
So...
Were you not going to bring up how I kicked your ass in the bowling alley?
Oh, did we see
that picture? Oh, yep. Now, just look at the form here. Look at the form. What is she doing? What are you doing here?
Wait a minute. I'm the host. You're not supposed to bully me.
I'm bullying you. I'm calling out the obvious. What is that? Look at my form. I think I threw it in the gutter, but I look good.
This is the passionate side of me. Actually, this is me without muscles trying to hold that ball because it was a heavy one.
No, you did great. And I was so happy that we got together that night and did this.
Fun.
It was a great event for the Salvation Army.
Yeah, we were raising a lot of money.
We did,
and that's a great thing, too, about that event. Like, it brings together people from everywhere.
It didn't matter what the politics were. Hanging out with the Spurs players. I was hanging out with people who I know are far left, and I'm far right. I think I didn't send you the picture. There's a picture of me shaking Ron Nierenberg's hand, and we didn't get along on anything, the former mayor of San Antonio. When you can do something like that, I like that we can lay it off to the side. I think sometimes the listeners and the viewers aren't able to do that like we can.
You didn't have the social media problem that we're dealing with now. Back then, the worst you got was like, what, a phone call to the newsroom, and that was it?
Yeah, a drunk guy would call in and say, I hate that guy, and stop putting him on the radio or stop putting him on television. And thankfully, the management said, I'm not going to stop letting the guy do television and radio for us.
Did that ever bother you? Because you come off as the kind of guy that you don't give a about anything.
I really do. I think I'm more sensitive than you might think. But you have to internalize that because of what we do. And
it's one thing when somebody says something against your family that maybe you don't like, but it's another one. It's a threat. And I mean, you dealt with that not long ago, right? A few months back, when the swatting incidents were targeting conservative talk show hosts like yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I mean, that must have been really scary for you.
Well, I was one of the first or second that got swatted, and there was some string of swatting. We don't really know why it happened yet. We're trying to figure out what topic it might have been that we were honing in on that bothered them.
So people who don't know what swatting is, tell us what happened.
Well, swatting is when somebody calls the police and says there's an emergency. In my case, they said, I'm Joe Pags, and there's a guy walked in with a gun, killed my dogs. My family and I are hiding upstairs in the closet. And obviously I didn't do that. Thankfully, we have a front door camera, and at 2:21 a.m., I see a guy with an AR-15 at my front door. Now, it was night vision, so I couldn't tell that it was a police officer immediately. I see tactical gear. I could see he had a hat on, and he would have shot me had I just walked out. So I called 911 immediately and I live in Comal County. Got Comal County, and then I said, are you at my house? She said, yes, there's an emergency. I said, no, there's not. Stop. I'm going to come out with you on the phone with my hands up and let me talk to them. And Sarah, when I got out there were 7 armed police officers with their long guns out, ready to kill somebody. Now, the guy was still on the phone as I walked out, and he was still saying he was me. Now he said he was hiding in the closet, and the bad guy stabbed him, and I'm bleeding out. Come in now. So what they wanted to have happen is my family awakened in the middle of the night and possibly be killed in my house because the officers come in, somebody's in distress. They see me. I've got guns nearby. I show up. I'm going to save the day. I'd be dead in my front door. So when somebody criticizes what we do in media, you take some of that. You get that. When somebody sends police to your house at 2 o'clock in the morning to possibly have you die in your doorway, that's a different dynamic. Can you imagine being put in that position by somebody who was using a Google Voice IP number out of California? They still haven't tracked down who it was. Now, thankfully, I'm not bragging, but I'm friends with Kash Patel. Been on my show 20 times. And Kash immediately responded, and the next day he tweeted that this isn't okay, that conservatives are being targeted, and we're going to do all we can to track these people down. Now, it's been months and months, and nobody's been tracked down yet. But from what I understand, they're getting closer to finding out who this was.
Talking about KTSA, this is a new move for you. I remember opening up my Facebook one day because you were with WAI for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then I see that, you were pretty open about it. You were like, I got let go.
Yeah.
There was a lot of drama going on for you at the time. How did it happen? Were you shocked?
Well, I signed my new contract at the beginning of that year. Beginning of 2024, I signed a new 3-year contract with iHeart. And I'd been with the company by the time I got that phone call that day for 21 years. They just put out about a week earlier, congratulations to Joe Pagliarulo, Joe Pags, for 21 years of great service with iHeartMedia. I had been with that company so long that it was Clear Channel. It wasn't iHeartMedia. That wasn't even thought of yet. And I got a call one morning, and it was from my general manager. I was shaving, so I didn't answer it. And I called her back a little while later. And she literally, Sarah, she read a piece of paper. I am just calling to inform you that because of restructuring in iHeartMedia, today will be your final day, or yesterday was your final day on the air. And you can be rehired, blah, blah, blah. I went, really? So my answer was, I didn't yell, didn't scream. I said, after 19 and a half, almost 20 years in that building, this is how you're doing it? Yes. That was it. That was 3 days after the election that I believe we helped bring in for Donald Trump, because I had Donald Trump Jr. on, and Michigan was a swing state. I've got 16 stations in Michigan. I think we helped him win there.
Did something happen in particular that you think led to that, or was it just... It's no secret that radio and TV is undergoing a lot of transformation right now with all the technology changing.
Right. Well, I think that it's a well-known fact. I'm not trashing the company. I did very well with that company. It's a well-known fact that they're $4 or $5 billion in debt. They had to get rid of $220 million in salaries, and I made a lot of money. But I also brought in 3 times ROI. So they actually lost money by getting rid of me, but on paper, some bean counter somewhere would say, hey, we lost this salary. That's a good thing. It makes it look good on the books. Is there anything else involved? Not that anybody ever told me, but I'll tell you this. We had the highest ratings we'd had in about a decade. We had some extremely high ratings. Time spent listening is a really important thing in radio. We had people who weekly were listening to almost 3 hours of my show, which is unbelievable.
But the cool thing is, one of the positives of social media is that you had already a massive name on social media and a big following.
Yeah.
So you were able to land on your feet just fine. You weren't necessarily just relying on that. You have, right? I mean, you continued. You didn't skip a beat.
Well, the thing is, I had to keep on doing the show because that was only one of 170 stations.
You have your own studio, right?
I do, but we did everything through WAI.
Okay.
So that day, I couldn't do my show, period. So what happened was, and again, because I'm neurotic like this, we played a best of that night for the affiliate stations. And then that weekend, I learned new automation software, learned how to do all of it from my studio. I rehired the guy that they laid off as well, Polo, who's my technical director. My daughter, Sam, worked for me anyway. She's my executive producer. We still had the staff in place. We just needed the facility to get it to the stations. And we did that. I quickly bought all the equipment I had to buy, gave it to Polo, gave it to me. By that Monday, we were back on the air, live across the nation. Not in San Antonio, though. And Sarah, I got to tell you, the biggest part, and you're right, financially I did fine. And in fact, they had to pay me for 6 months. I had a severance package. And I couldn't get back on the air in San Antonio because of that 6-month deal that I had with them. I had a non-compete, but they had to pay me. So they still paid me not to be on the air in San Antonio. But what bothered me the most was that the listeners in San Antonio, who for 19 and a half years knew my voice on the radio, like me or hate me, you knew I was going to be there, and you knew there's a breaking news story. I was going to kick into news anchor mode and give you exactly the story. I was just gone. They got in the car that day and heard somebody else. And what do you say to them? And I had no direct avenue to tell them, hey, it wasn't me. I'd like to still be on there. So as soon as I legally could, I got with the folks at Alpha, which is KTSA, and they were interested in bringing me on. And I was certainly interested in getting back on the air in San Antonio and made it my new flagship. And I'm so glad to be back. But for that moment, for about 3 minutes, I went, oh, yeah, what do I do? What just happened? And they let my daughter go, who'd been there since she was 16. So for half of her life, she'd worked at the same company. And we were going like we really were miserable for 3 minutes. Then we said, all right, let's get to work. And we got to work, and we made it work. And we're so happy to be on KTSA.
You have been an incredible guest. Thank you for making time for coming. I know you are incredibly busy. You're nonstop here. I'm sure your fans are going to be very excited to hear from you and hopefully, learned a lot about you. Okay, before we go, where can people listen to you? I know you have like 5 things, and I can't remember everything. I follow you on TikTok, Instagram, all of that. So tell us. You can go to joepags.com. That's the main website. And there are some links to the social media there. A lot of my interviews will be there. But if you want to follow me on the biggest platform, it's TikTok. It could be joepags.com/TikTok. We made it easy. My daughter Sam does this. She made it easy. joepags.com/YouTube takes you to YouTube. joepags.com/Facebook takes you to Facebook. So just put in your favorite social media. Instagram will take you to Instagram. We've got 1 million on TikTok, as we've said, as I've bragged a couple of times now. We've got 500,000 plus on Instagram. Worth bragging about.
Well, I mean, it was quite a feat. That went from nothing to like something because we really worked hard on it. But I've got a new podcast out called Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags. We devised that because of the Swatting Incident. And originally, the logo was a guy holding a gun. We just took that off the logo now. But Unshaken and Unafraid, they couldn't deter me from talking about what I want to talk about on my show. They couldn't deter me by scaring my family and me at the house. So we call it Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags. There's a playlist on YouTube.
I did not know that backstory. Very interesting. Joe, thank you.
You're amazing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You're crazy good at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.